A carburetor is a critical component of a motorcycle which supplies charge to the engine. It should always be kept clean to perform optimally. So in this video, we will be disassembling the carburetor and cleaning it. This is the most common CV type carburetor used in Bajaj, TVS, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, Hero and every other motorcycles out there. So this video is applicable to almost everyone. Let's start the process by removing the carburetor from the motorcycle. Now this one has a cover for the carburetor, but most of the times we have direct access to the carburetor. As you can see, it's just 2 screws and the cover is out. Next in line is the accelerator cable which is connected to the carburetor. Removing the accelerator cable is really easy. Just loose it from the mounting plate and then we can slide the accelerator cable out. The carburetor is attached to the air intake hose using a circular clamp. Loose the clamping screw to free the carburetor from the intake side. The same thing is to be done to free the carburetor from the engine side. Next we have to disconnect this sensor which senses the throttle position as it is connected directly to the throttle body. Again, this has got a single screw. Now not many motorcycles will have this. Some may have 2 cables for the accelerator at the carburetor end. After the sensor, we can remove the fuel hose which sits next to the sensor. Make sure to turn the fuel supply off before removing the hose. Next, we will disconnect the drain pipe. Next in line is the choke cable which needs a 14 mm spanner to unscrew it from the carburetor. There is a rubber O-ring inside it, so be careful when you remove the choke cable. Many motorcycles will have an integrated choke on the carburetor, so they can skip this step. Disconnect any breather hose if present and then we can slide the carburetor out. To make things easy, we can slide it out from the engine side first. Now we have the carburetor on the workbench where we can work and shoot with better lighting. Dust on the outer surface has already been brushed off and here we are removing the top diaphragm cover. Here the diaphragm cover has got 2 screws. Hold the top cover firmly after removing the screws as it has got a spring inside it. So here is the diaphragm cover from inside. And here is the spring which I was talking about. And finally we have the diaphragm out with the needle jet at its end. Here we are removing the accelerator cable mounting plate. Removing it is optional, but we are removing it as it helps while working on the float chamber. Next is the choke assembly which houses the choke mechanism with the cable, where it helps in introducing more fuel when it is required for cold starts. 2 screws with washer and the choke system is out. Make sure all the sealing rubber is intact without any cracks. Here we have placed the carburetor upside down and we are opening the float chamber. Remove the screws to get access to the float chamber. So we have the float chamber here, and before getting the float out, we will be removing the main jet as I'm a bit curious to check its condition. Here we are using a 7 mm socket to remove the main jet. Be very careful while working on these parts and avoid applying excess force. Here the main jet is out and I can already see some dirt clogging the flow holes. This thing can severely affect the performance of a motorcycle, especially at high RPM. As said earlier, now we will remove the float by sliding out the float pin. Hold the float carefully while sliding out the float pin as the float needle sits underneath. Next comes the pilot jet. Again, I can see the presence of dirt here. Now it's time to start the cleaning process. Here we are using the carburetor and the parts cleaner spray from Nikavi. Cleaning with petrol can be an alternative, but the effort required with a cleaner is way less and the final results are noticeably better. Clean the carburetor in and out. A fine bristle plastic brush and a clean lint-free cotton cloth can definitely help a lot with the cleaning process. Make sure the throttle valve towards the engine side and the whole float chamber along with the slide is thoroughly cleaned. Here we can see the main jet, which is now free from all the clogging dirt. This is the air fuel adjustment screw which was removed and cleaned. While cleaning, pay special attention towards the tip. A spring sits on the screw along with a washer and an O-ring, which you will see while installing it back. The float needle was also thoroughly inspected, and always make sure the spring is working fine. Similarly, the pilot jet was spotlessly cleaned and now it is ready for the installation. So the pilot jet and the main jet goes back to their respective places. Carefully install the float needle and then the float by sliding the float pin. Make sure the whole assembly is working fine by lightly tapping the float and checking for smooth, uninterrupted movements. Finally, put the float chamber cover back and secure it with the screws. Next, we are on the diaphragm side where everything now is completely cleaned and shiny from inside. Before installing the diaphragm back, make sure to check the diaphragm rubber for cracks and don't forget to check the slide for excessive wear. Compress the spring and put the diaphragm cap back. Secure the diaphragm with the screws. Fix the accelerator cable mount back to its place. I had taken the drain screw out just to inspect it. Time to put it back to its place. Make sure it has the O-ring inside it, otherwise fuel will leak out, making your wallet lighter. Finally, we have the air fuel screw with the spring, washer and the O-ring on the top. Carefully fix the air fuel screw back to its place. Do not over tight it as it is a delicate one and will be used further for the carburetor tuning. We do have a video for that in the description. Time to slide the carburetor in its place. Once it is back in place, the circular clamps can be secured lightly with the screws. Fix the drain hose back to its place. Next comes the accelerator cable. Secure it with the nuts on the mount and check it if it's working fine. Fix the choke mechanism back to where it belongs. Secure and install the choke cable with a 14 mm spanner. Connect the throttle position sensor back to its place and fix it with a single screw. Your final action should be joining the fuel line back to the carburetor. Finally, the circular clamp on both the intake and the engine side can be secured tightly. The video concludes here. A lot of time and effort has gone in making this video and I hope you guys have liked it.